The moment the plane's cabin lights flickered, and the murmurs of passengers turned into tense whispers, the pilot knew something was wrong. Panic rippled through the rows, but amid the fear, one woman stood out calm, composed, almost eerily unshaken. Her presence was magnetic, and even the seasoned pilot found himself stealing glances, trying to understand how anyone could remain so steady when chaos erupted around them. As the situation escalated, and the air grew thick with tension, passengers huddled together, uncertain of what would happen next. The terrorists were in control, but their focus didn't seem to break her calm. Every move she made, every glance she gave, suggested a hidden plan, a quiet determination that no one could ignore. The pilot, watching from the cockpit, couldn't help but feel a mixture of admiration and fear. What was she thinking? What could she possibly do in a moment that demanded instinct, courage, and sheer guts? And then, in a twist that no one could have predicted, she did something that would shock everyone on that flight and leave the world asking the same question. How did one person's courage change the course of an impossible situation? The story was far from over, and what happened next would leave history stunned. The woman wasn't just another passenger. She had a quiet confidence that hinted at experience, something the pilot couldn't place at first. In the dim cabin lights, he noticed small details: the way she scanned the situation, the way her hand stayed steady on her lap, the calm rhythm of her breathing. It was as if she had anticipated this exact moment long before anyone else even imagined it. Around her, fear clung to every passenger like a shadow, but she seemed almost untouchable by it. Her presence a strange anchor in the storm of panic. The pilot's mind raced, trying to recall any information about her. Was she military, security, or just an ordinary traveler with nerves of steel? Every second that passed added pressure to an already unbearable situation. Whispers and muffled cries echoed through the cabin, and the tension was suffocating. Meanwhile, the terrorists moved with methodical precision, unaware that someone in their midst might see things they didn't. Single quotes T. As the plane continued its tense journey, the pilot kept glancing at her, feeling a mix of hope and dread. There was something about her next move that felt inevitable, like a key turning in a lock, but he couldn't guess what it would be. And deep down he knew that when it happened, it would change everything, for the passengers, for the crew, and for the world watching. The tension in the cabin thickened with every passing minute. Passengers clutched armrests and exchanged frightened glances, but the woman remained a calm center in the storm. From the pilot's perspective, every movement in the cabin was magnified. He could see the subtle ways the terrorists asserted control, the way they barked orders, and the nervous hesitation of those they confronted. Yet she moved differently, almost invisibly, blending in while assessing every detail with sharp focus. Around her, stories unfolded in microcosm. A young mother whispered reassurances to her crying child. A businessman gripped his phone as if calling for help, and an elderly man muttered prayers under his breath. Each passenger reacted differently to the fear, creating a tense mosaic of emotion. But the woman seemed to observe it all, calculating, waiting for the perfect moment to act. Meanwhile, in the cockpit, the pilot wrestled with conflicting instincts. Should he try to communicate with her, or stay focused on keeping the plane steady? Under extreme pressure, his thoughts flickered between hope and dread. Every decision mattered, and every second seemed both endless and fleeting. The sense that something unexpected was about to happen hung over the cabin like a storm cloud, and no one could predict the chain of events that would soon unfold, forever changing the fate of everyone on board. The cabin felt frozen in time. Every sound, the rustle of a bag, the shuffle of feet, even the shallow breaths of terrified passengers seemed amplified. The woman's calm was no longer just noticeable, it was magnetic. Passengers couldn't help but watch her, wondering if she held the key to survival. The pilot's eyes never left the instruments, but he kept stealing glances at her, sensing that whatever she was planning, it would happen soon. The terrorists grew restless, their impatience palpable. One of them barked orders, and a young passenger flinched, drawing a sharp glance. Tension spiraled higher, and the air felt almost electric with fear and anticipation. The woman shifted slightly, her movements deliberate, calculated. She made eye contact with a few passengers, silently conveying reassurance, but also a warning. Something was coming. In the cockpit, the pilot's heart pounded. He could feel the pressure of every decision, every misstep, and yet he was drawn to her composure. It was as if she had a plan that none of them could predict. Around her, passengers clutched each other, some whispering prayers, others frozen in disbelief. And then, with a single, small gesture, she set in motion a chain of events that would leave everyone gripping their seats, teetering on the edge of fear and astonishment. The moment was coming, the one that would test courage, instinct, and the limits of human resolve. Just as the tension reached a nearly unbearable peak, the plane jolted slightly, a turbulence that sent drinks spilling and passengers gripping their seats. But the shock wasn't from the air outside, it was from the cabin itself. One of the terrorists suddenly turned toward the cockpit, panic flashing in his eyes, as if he had just realized something critical. The woman, still calm, had somehow triggered a hidden complication they hadn't anticipated. Whispers and gasps filled the cabin. Passengers sensing that the situation had just shifted in ways no one could predict. The pilot's pulse raced. He could feel the stakes multiplying with every second. The calm, collected presence of the woman had always hinted at hidden expertise, but now it was undeniable. She was orchestrating something far beyond anyone's expectations. The terrorists exchanged hurried glances, their control faltering. Fear and confusion spread like wildfire, and passengers caught glimpses of what seemed like cracks in the once iron grip of the hijackers. From her seat, the woman made another, subtle movement, almost imperceptible, yet loaded with significance. It was clear that the next moments could change everything: the fate of the plane, the safety of the passengers, and the lives of those on board. The world outside would never expect what was coming, and no one in that cabin could predict the full extent of her next move. The cabin erupted in a mix of chaos and disbelief. In a sudden, precise motion, the woman sprang into action, moving swiftly yet carefully through the rows of terrified passengers. The terrorists, caught off guard by her unexpected maneuver, froze for a heartbeat that stretched into eternity. The pilot, watching from the cockpit, realized she had taken control in a way no one could have predicted. With nerves of steel and calculated precision, she disarmed the nearest hijacker, using a combination of quick thinking and sheer courage that left everyone on edge. Passengers watched in awe as she neutralized the threat, her calm energy anchoring them even amid the terror. The remaining hijackers hesitated, and that pause was all the opportunity needed. Within moments, the woman had turned the tide, regaining a fragile control over the cabin. The pilot exhaled deeply, steering the plane with renewed focus, knowing the worst was almost over. Just when relief began to ripple through the passengers, an unexpected twist shattered the momentary calm. A hidden device, overlooked in the chaos, beeped ominously from a nearby compartment. The woman's eyes flickered, a brief flash of concern crossing her composed face. The fight wasn't completely over. As the plane cruised toward safety, the tension lingered, reminding everyone that courage and vigilance were far from finished, and that even heroes must face the unexpected. The plane finally touched down, the tires skimming the runway with a rush of relief that echoed through the cabin. Passengers clutched each other, some crying, others laughing in disbelief at what had just unfolded. The woman, still composed despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins, gave a reassuring nod to those around her. Her calm had not only guided them through terror, but had inspired courage in everyone who had been paralyzed by fear. Emergency crews swarmed the plane, checking on passengers and ensuring the hijackers were safely detained. The pilot exhaled, finally allowing himself to feel the weight lift from his shoulders. He looked toward the cabin and saw gratitude, awe, and respect in the eyes of those who had survived the ordeal. Stories began to emerge of a mother who had held her child through the chaos, of a businessman who had helped others remain calm, and of ordinary passengers discovering extraordinary courage within themselves. The woman quietly gathered her belongings, slipping off the plane almost unnoticed, leaving a legacy of bravery that would ripple far beyond that flight. News outlets around the world would later call her actions remarkable and life-saving, but for those on board, she had been more than a hero. She had been a symbol of hope, calm, and resilience. And as the plane emptied, one thing was certain: courage can shine brightest in the darkest of moments, and ordinary people can achieve the extraordinary when it matters most.